Hi everyone. So today we are going to talk about the excretory system. So hopefully you guys either downloaded the notes or you made a copy of the notes so you can follow along. Okay, so the whole point of the excretory system is to remove waste from the body, and it's going to include a couple of organs that we've already spoken about. First off is the liver. If you remember, the liver created the bile for the digestive system. Well, in addition to doing that, the liver also makes ammonia as a byproduct. And when ammonia and carbon dioxide, what we talked about last time where we're releasing carbon dioxide, well, some of that carbon dioxide actually comes together with ammonia to produce urea. What does urea sound like? Urea sounds like urine, and that's where urine is going to come from. So the urea is going to enter the blood and it's going to be carried to the kidneys. Now, that's going to be the organ that we're really going to focus on, the kidneys, because they're very, very interesting in the excretory system. So just give me a couple minutes and we'll go over that. So what happens is this urea is going to enter the blood, it's going to go to the kidneys, and the kidneys are going to be these huge filtering centers, and it's going to remove it, and it's going to basically take the urine out of the blood. So urine, by definition, is this urea that's created from ammonia and carbon dioxide from the liver, water, and salt. The skin is also part of the excretory system. It's removing sweat, which is also water and salt. The lungs is part of the excretory system. Remember, excretory exit. So anything that's exiting the body is going to be part of the excretory system. So that's going to be removing carbon dioxide from the body. So now let's get into the kidneys because these guys are pretty important. So very interesting thing happens at the kidneys. So there are little structures inside of the kidneys known as nephrons. So inside of the kidneys, now the kidneys divided into two sections. I don't want to get into that. That's like more AP biology type of stuff. But you've got the nephrons, which is zoomed in right here. So what happens is all of the blood goes in through the nephron here, and then it's going to go down and it's going to loop around. So here's what happens. The blood enters the kidney and goes into these little structures called the nephrons. When it's in the nephron, everything gets ripped out of the blood. The urine, the water, the salt, the nutrients, everything gets ripped out of the blood. So you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, we need these nutrients. You're right, we do. So what happens is everything gets ripped out of the blood here, and then as the blood passes through the nephron, it actually slowly puts the stuff back into the blood. So what happens is everything gets ripped out. So what are things that our body needs? Well, our body needs water. That gets put back into the blood. Our body needs nutrients. That gets put back into the blood. Our body might need some salt content. That gets put back into the blood. So what happens is all the extra stuff that's not needed is what is collected by the kidney and then is eventually going to go down this ureter. We'll talk about that in a second. But I really want people to understand because it is kind of weird to think about. So when the blood enters the kidney, everything gets ripped out of the blood, all the bad stuff and all the good stuff. And as it works its way through the nephron, what's happening is the good stuff gets put back into the blood. So the bad stuff is getting collected to get removed as waste, but the good stuff is being put back into the blood. Okay, so we've heard of the term kidney stones. Anybody that's had a kidney stone, they call it a kidney stone because it almost like forms a little rock inside of your kidney. And so kidney stones can be salt-based, they can be calcium-based. If you're somebody who suffers from kidney stones a lot, the doctors would try and collect some of those kidney stones because then they can perform tests on it to see what they're made of. And then maybe you would do a little diet modification to help reduce the amount of kidney stones that you get. Just to kind of bring it to something you might know about, anybody that goes through dialysis, that means that their kidneys are not doing what they should be doing. So basically, they're not able to filter the bad stuff out of the blood. So if you've ever seen somebody go through dialysis, um, they usually have a port coming out of one arm and then a port going into another arm with a machine above them. So what happens is their blood goes through the machine. The machine basically cleans out the blood just like the kidney would, and then the cleaned out blood goes into the other arm. So depending on your situation, if somebody needs dialysis twice a week, that means that their kidneys are functioning to a certain degree. But somebody that needs dialysis 3 or 4 times a week, they probably are on the list to get a kidney transplant just because their kidney is really not doing what it should be doing. Okay, so sometimes, to bring it back to kidney stones, sometimes kidney stones get stuck. So they can get stuck in the kidney, and they can even get stuck into the ureter here. So we're going to get into the labeling of this, but it's pretty simple. It's the kidney into the ureter, it's called, into the bladder, out through the urethra. Take a look there. This can get a little tricky. Ureter connects kidneys to bladder. Urethra is bladder to the outside of the body. Okay. So if somebody has a kidney stone that gets stuck in the ureter or stuck in the kidney, they can have a surgery where it's almost like it's blasted, where it's broken up into small pieces to hopefully get it to go out of the body. And yes, kidney stones are more painful for males than females because the male urethra is longer than the female urethra. So people say that kidney stones are similar to giving birth. I personally have never had a kidney stone, so I cannot agree nor disagree with that statement. I have had a kid, but no kidney stone. Okay, so the bladder is just going to be what stores your urine, okay? So this is gonna be like, I want you to think of this like the gas tank on a car, okay? When mom or dad goes to fill up the gas tank, if you've ever watched the needle, it slowly goes up from E to F, right? Well, guess what? When our bladder slowly fills up, and then when it gets to that full, that's when we get the feeling, oh, full bladder, oh, we got to use the bathroom. And then that's when that's when you ask me to go to the bathroom, and then next period ask another teacher to go to the bathroom. You know who I'm talking about. Okay, great. So that's how the bladder works, though. There's almost like a little, I want you to think of like a little buoy in there that's like determining whether it's full or not. Okay. So here is a diagram of the human urinary system. Okay. So we've got the kidneys up here. The kidneys connected to the ureter. Remember, kidney to bladder is ureter. The bladder, which holds the urine, and then ultimately out the urethra. So here is just a zoomed in picture of that nephron like I was telling you about. So here we go. Everything gets ripped out of the blood, and slowly as it goes through the nephron, that's when the good stuff gets put back into the blood. Okay, and then you have this other diagram, pretty much the same thing as the one that we just saw. Renal means kidney, so to kind of relate it to what we've discussed already, artery away. So renal artery meaning that we're pushing blood away from the heart into the kidney, and then renal vein is when it's going back to the heart. So these are veins specific to the kidney, okay? So once again, ureter is with kidney to bladder, urethra is bladder to urethra. Bladder to the outside of the body. So very interesting, we've got this thing called a sphincter. It's a tiny muscle that actually pinches closed so that you don't basically have an accident. So when you teach little kids how to potty train, you're actually teaching them how to train that muscle to squeeze, basically stay shut so that they don't urinate all over themselves. And then when it's appropriate, when they're in the bathroom, to relax the muscle so it opens up, which causes the bladder to release everything inside of it. So that's actually how the bladder works, is the sphincter pinches closed. That's what keeps it in the bladder. And then slowly, when you go to the bathroom and you relax the muscle, it opens it up, and then the fluid comes through it. Okay. So just a quick recap. Kidney is how we are filtering waste out of the blood. Remember, everything gets ripped out of the blood and only the good stuff enters back into the blood. So the urea and the urine are what are coming down the ureter, and they're getting stored in the bladder until ultimately they pass out of the body through the urethra. Now, like I said, the female urethra is much smaller than the male, not smaller, yeah, not as long as the male urethra for obvious reasons, for where urine comes out of. Next year, we will talk a little bit more about those differences. Okay, so hopefully this helped explain the excretory system. And if you have any questions, please feel free when we have our Zoom session to have me answer any of them. And that's it. I hope you and your families are well, and we will see each other soon. Have a great day.